When it comes to bad gimmicks, we tend to look back to the 80s and 90s for a laugh, before wrestling became more reality-based, but the 21st century has also delivered plenty of hopeless and cringeworthy characters. So here are my picks for the 10 worst WWE gimmicks of the 21st century so far. Kicking off with Simon Dean, the fitness guru who had a revolutionary diet supplement to sell to WWE fans. He debuted in 2004 and was presented as a self-obsessed health expert, marketing his fictional diet supplement program called the Simon System. Dean would mock the fans and other wrestlers for their unhealthy lifestyles while promoting the benefits of his products. And who can forget that Segway that he used to ride to the ring? The whole gimmick was funny for about a week, but really, the Simon System stunk of the lower mid-card, and WWE lost interest very quickly too. It wasn't long before Simon Dean rode his Segway off into the sunset, never to be mentioned again. The ECW Zombie debuted in 2006 on the very first episode of WWE's relaunched version of ECW. So many hardcore ECW fans were hoping that WWE were going to be serious in their revival of the brand, but as soon as they saw this monstrosity lumbering towards the ring, all of that hope went out of the window. The Zombie's only notable moment was his match against the Sandman, who, with his trademark kendo stick, dispatched him in record time. And originally it was going to be an alien from outer space landing in the ring, but he no-showed, and so we ended up with the Zombie instead. After this single appearance, the ECW Zombie was killed off for good, and he never appeared on WWE programming ever again. Before Pirate Paul Burchill swung into WWE in 2006, he was already known to SmackDown fans as just Paul Burchill, William Regal's one-time tag team partner. But when they split up, Burchill said that his ancestry could be traced back to the pirate Blackbeard, and so he wanted to portray a pirate going forward, and so it wasn't long before Pirate Paul Burchill appeared on Friday Night SmackDown. The whole gimmick wasn't that Burchill was actually a pirate from the past, but that he started to believe that he was one. As Regal tried to convince him to come back to his senses and stop pretending to be a pirate, he would just fall further and further into the character. I have to admit, as a comedy character, Pirate Paul was pretty damn entertaining. His entrance was a lot of fun, and he certainly looked the part. Sadly, Pirate Paul Burchill was the one to walk the plank after a few months of playing the gimmick, but it was Mickey Mouse who pushed him overboard. Apparently, Disney weren't too happy with how close the character was to Captain Jack Sparrow. Gillian Hall debuted in 2006 as an associate of M&M before becoming JBL's PR consultant. The elephant in the room, however, was the massive growth on her face. Yes, the joke was that Gillian was an image consultant who happened to have a huge mole on the side. In 2007, she was given the gimmick of annoying singer after a backstage segment where she tried to impress music producer Timbaland. This act got old really quickly, and after a few weeks, fans were hoping that the Boogeyman would come back and this time rip out her voice box. It all started so well for Brodus Clay. He debuted on the main roster in 2011 as Alberto Del Rio's bodyguard. Then he took some time off TV and they started hyping up his return via various promo videos. But when Clay finally reappeared, nobody expected it to be like this. The era of the Funkasaurus was upon us. He now danced his way to the ring with the Funkadactyls, and we couldn't help but wonder why Vince McMahon had given him this awful gimmick. Apparently, it was all a rib on Dusty Rhodes because back in developmental, Clay was one of Dusty's pet projects, and we all know how Vince loved to mess with the American dream. Unsurprisingly, Brodus himself was reluctant to play the Funkasaurus until he worked out that it was either this or back to flipping burgers. The gimmick went on for 2 long years, although his segments did make for a suitable piss break every week. A series of spooky videos in 2004 preceded Mordecai's arrival in WWE. In a room surrounded by candles, he said that all of us were sinners and that he would cast judgment upon the wicked and cleanse the world of sin. Yes, he was most definitely a bad guy. I believe the technical term is religious nutter. Mordecai walked to the ring dressed all in white with a crucifix, and in his first few matches he destroyed various jobbers, and then he beat Scotty 2 Hotty and Hardcore Holly on pay-per-view. Not a bad start, but then it all went to hell for Mordecai. All of a sudden, he got beat by Rey Mysterio on an episode of SmackDown, and that was it. He just disappeared. Rumours say that his character was designed to be the mirror image of The Undertaker, but WWE management wasn't happy with Mordecai's in-ring skills, and so they just cancelled him. Kevin Fertig, the man behind the character, was sent back down to developmental. He eventually came back a few years later as Kevin Thorne, a literal vampire. In 2020, Alexa Bliss transformed into a sinister, supernatural character after spending too much time with Bray Wyatt. This new version of Alexa included eerie behaviour, and she introduced a weird doll named Lily. Then she started to display supernatural powers like mind control, where she seemingly could bend the fabric of reality, and she even hypnotised her opponents during matches. I personally hate it when WWE do supernatural stuff because it instantly breaks your suspension of disbelief, and this crap with Alexa was just awful. What made it even worse was that it made no sense. I mean, what was this nonsense all about? Can you believe they did this at WrestleMania, of all places? Okay, here's 5 for the price of 1. Kenny, Johnny, Mitch, Nikki and Mikey. It's the Spirit Squad. Back in 2006, WWE called up these 6 talented young wrestlers and turned them into the company's first ever male cheerleading squad. They debuted at the Royal Rumble and started to immediately get under the fans' skins. Then they became Vince McMahon's dumb cronies in his feud with Shawn Michaels, before Kenny and Mikey became the tag team champions and feuded with DX. And to be fair to them, these guys tried their very hardest while playing the gimmick, but ultimately they were still just a bunch of annoying male cheerleaders. It was only Nikki who would have any success in WWE after the breakup, and he became better known as Dolph Ziggler. Matt Bloom was widely recognised by WWE fans as Prince Albert during the Attitude Era, mainly thanks to his unique look, and by that I mean his hairy back. He was later repackaged as A-Train, where he teamed up with The Big Show at WrestleMania 19 to take on The Undertaker. Bloom left WWE and went to work in Japan to wrestle as Giant Bernard. He became massively successful as a heel over in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he didn't return to the US until 2012. But when he came back to WWE, they rebranded him as Lord Tensai. The gimmick portrayed him as an American transformed into a Japanese warrior after years in the Japanese dojo. However, fans quickly realised that he was the former Prince Albert, and so started chanting "Shave your back" and Albert at him during his matches. And when they weren't chanting, they sat in silence, because this new gimmick absolutely sucked. Sadly for Matt Bloom, it didn't matter how famous he was in Japan, the WWE fans were not buying A-Train as a main event heel. After a few months, the company turned him into a comedy character, and then he retired altogether. In 2005, Chavo Guerrero apparently lost his mind and transformed into Kerwin White. Yes, Chavo decided to ignore his Hispanic heritage and started living life as a Caucasian. His new catchphrase was, "If it's not white, it's not right." He dyed his hair and became a golf-playing, sweater-wearing conservative, complete with golf buggy, which he would ride to the ring during his entrance. Now, this was during the Ruthless Aggression era, and Kerwin White really was the tip of the iceberg when it came to questionable gimmicks. That was until he stepped it up a gear by making suggestive remarks towards African Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, Native Americans and other non-white people, and at one time specifically towards Shelton Benjamin. WWE quickly dropped the gimmick after Chavo's cousin Eddie passed away, and Kerwin White was never mentioned again, probably for the best.